What is up, Inuyasha fans? Simon here. Welcome to HannaTalk. Hope you're all doing fantastic. And today I'm here with a very special guest. Now, he is an actor who is best known to fans as Shishomaru in Inuyasha and Megatron and Optimus Prime from the Transformers series, but he's also played characters across from the comic book universe, such as X-Men Evolution, to the video game universe, such as Clank in Ratchet and Clank, as well as being part of the Disney universe, starring in the 2017 version of the classic series DuckTales. Please welcome the amazing David Kaye.
Hey, how are you? This is great. I have to ask. I'm sound like my father right now, but what time is it over there?
It's not. It's actually 10. It's actually 10 past 9 a.m. at the moment in Australia. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, my father's still. We're in L.A. My father's still back in Canada. He says, "What time is it there, Dad?" It's always 3 hours behind. That's always going to be that way. No need to ask. Yeah.
I
Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate
absolutely,
it.
absolutely. It's no problem at all. How are you?
Well, well, there's no roadmap for what we're going through. So, the good news is, thankfully, we're all healthy here in our family. Everybody's fine. It's just, it's mentally challenging some days, just
Absolutely.
keep it on the rails. It's thank goodness for the studio at home here, and I've been quite busy in the studio doing a bunch of different shows over here. Last week tonight with John Oliver still going on with no audience, and the cartoons are ramping up. So video games and cartoons were all going from our home studios, and I'm set up pretty good here. So I have my toys. We've made a little gym in the garage, and as a matter of fact, speaking of toys in a gym, I was on the bike for a little spin today, and to my right there's a whole bunch of these, and you'd appreciate this. There's boxes, and I can see that they're kind of plastic, and you can see through it. And I have to go through all my toys. I haven't opened those boxes for years, and
Wow.
I'm sort of looking through and I can say, hey, is that a GI Joe? I can see stuff through there, and I go, man, I gotta go through this because we have nothing but time apparently,
Mm.
and so I think that's going to be a project maybe this weekend as I'll go through some of those boxes and see what kind of toys I have in there, which is kind of cool.
Absolutely, that's fantastic. And because I actually just came across I was looking across on your video, and you had done a post talking about like what's been happening because of the pandemic at the moment, and I spotted across through the where you were filming this message, and it had so many toys across the entire room. From I think it was
Huh.
like a plastic like an action figure. I think of Vision from Avengers Assembled. You had Clank
Yeah.
from Ratchet and Clank. You had Grandpa Max up in the background somewhere,
Yeah, that
and
beautiful painting done by one of the storyboard artists, the Cartoon Network. Yeah, I wanted to do, I've been saying I'm not real, a real active. I'm getting better at it, but active on social media, I'm reluctant to sort of, unless it's meaningful to me, unless I sort of like feel something, and I just wanted to do a post, and because I mean, people been reaching out, hey, how's it going? How are you? Everything okay? And I said, well, I should do something, because I'm hearing from some Transformers fans, and in that universe as well, and anime fans, and as a matter of fact, quite a few fans of Inuyasha and the character Sesshomaru, which I can, yeah, you can't see it, but up to my left is this Sesshomaru is still in the box. I haven't opened it yet. Um,
fantastic.
yeah, so I just said I wanted to do some kind of message, just something to say something that we're good, and and stay home, and so, yeah, that's my studio. It's a real comfortable place to sort of be, create. It's the property we live in Los Angeles is, I mean, as far as the history, it's recent history, but it was built in the early '40s, and uh, built by a famous architect named Paul Williams. It was the first African American He was a big deal here, and he built 3,000 properties, and his homes are they're very homey feel. They have a homey feel, sort of a Cape Cod type feel. I don't know. It's very warm. So when we redid the studio, we gutted this guest house. I said I want that 40s feel. I want that dark wood. I want that. I don't know what it is with me in the 40s. Who know? I don't know. I have no idea. But I have an old radio up above in the little room up there. It's a Scotch cart room, and it's an old early 40s radio. And so I wanted it to feel like warm and comfortable and homey and early 40s. And it looks really cool with the new toys. It just works with these toys. And I switch them out now and again. But it's just a fun place to come to work, you know. And surrounded by the characters that that you enjoy. And I had to have Sesshomaru here, and it was one of the things I said, well, I gotta, where is that? And I found the toy, and it's on display proudly. That was the first big anime. Well, I did was Ranma 1/2, and then Inuyasha was the first big real hit.
Fantastic.
Anime show that I was involved with when I used to live in Vancouver and work up there with the Ocean Group. So it's proudly displayed. You'll be happy.
Fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic right there. And that's really good to hear that you've just hearing the description about your studio right there, how it's kind of a mixture of like a very 40s kind of aesthetic, but also bringing in a lot of modern stuff as well, like a lot of the stuff that you've done in your past career, not just as an actor, but also as a fan of this stuff as well. It's just fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Do you know who Joe Kirby is? He was the guy who created Deadpool.
Ah, yes, yeah, that's right.
I know Joe, and I bought this compendium, this beautiful hardcover book, and it's still in bubble wrap actually. And I looked to my left, and he signed it for me, and I went, the Holy Grail, you know. So it's things. In a time like this, we try and surround ourselves with family and things that make us feel comfortable and connected. And so all these things, I have some stuff from fans here, from some drawings, some things that people have made me over that. They're displayed, and like I say, I switch them out now and again. And it's just all the things that make me feel connected and I don't know, warm, you know. And I get that's important. However you get that feeling, it's
absolutely.
Is important.
Absolutely, and that is absolutely fantastic right there. Now, going straight into the questions here. So, how did you get started in acting?
Acting. I used to, not technically, I used to mimic all my teachers in school, and it's the same old thing you hear, and you'll hear a lot of people out there, like Rob Paulson, Jim Cummings, all these people that, I used to make fun of my teachers when I was at school, and we all did. We would mimic. I would mimic them, or I would mimic my friends. When I was very young, I made a cassette tape. I was 7.
Wow.
No, I'm sorry, I was 9. I'm sorry, 9 years old. And I had a cassette tape. Remember those?
Yes.
It's got a tape in it. You had to rewind with your finger or a pencil. And it's and I would turn the radio on, and I would record the music on my local radio station, and I would turn, when the guy came on, I'd turn him down, and I'd say something stupid as a young kid. And my mother still has that tape. And fast forward, I became an on-air personality at 17 years old in my hometown, and in Peterborough, Ontario, Canada, old Canada, and that's how it started. So it was all about, I used my ears, and I would listen to things, and I'd try and recreate them, and I was always a goofball. And I craving attention. See, now it's funny, in my early 50s, I don't want the attention. But when I was a kid, I said, I want everyone to look at me. Look at me. Look what I'm doing. And I look back and I go, God, what an idiot. But we all, and you'll talk to any animation actor, any voiceover actor, and that's sort of how we all started. So in Vancouver, I was in radio. That was in 89. I was brought out to Vancouver to work at a radio station called LG 73, and they put me on. It was middays, and it was a great. I moved around on the station. I ended up on the morning show, and back in the early '90s, it was all about the zoo format. They may have had that in Australia as well. I'm pretty sure they did have that. There's an era. There's a morning zoo when they had a bunch of people, honking horns and goofy voices, and there was a whole team of people, and it was the LG Morning Zoo, and it gave me a chance to sort of screw around with voices, and I had come up with a character called Cowboy Dick. Howdy, boys and girls. I had a little song I wrote for you today, and I'd make up a goofy little song about it. Chicken, hanging from the highest tree, and we would write comedy, and it was fun, and I ended up taking this because in the morning show on radio, you're done at 9 or 10. Your day's done, and so well, what am I going to do all day long? I'd drive my wife nuts. This is before kids, and so I took this commercial modeling course. Now, the modeling part. I think you've got at one of these places, if you had, one eye in the middle of your forehead, hey, you could be a model, huh? Sign on the dotted line, give us $100, and I'm like, well, okay. But the commercial part really interested me because it was learning lines, and it was my first introduction to acting, whatever. But I took the class, and I met my first agent in this. He was teaching it. And one day I drove him home after class, and he said, you should think about doing this. He said, you got to sort of have a handle on this. And look, I'm a new agent. If you want me to represent you, I will. I said, yeah, sure. He goes, well, take 24 hours. I said, well, why? Go. You're my agent, so let's just do this. So 6 weeks later, I think it was, I had no idea what I was doing. He says, do you know how to do voices? He called me, and I said, I lied. Well, a white lie. I said, well, yeah, sure, I know how to do voices. I had no idea what he's talking about. He said, well, I have an audition for G.I. Joe. And I go, what? He said, yeah, they're doing a cartoon. They're doing a cartoon, and they're casting for the roles. I go, well, God, I'm a big fan of G.I. Joe. I have all the dolls at home. So I read for a bunch of different roles, and I remember going in, and the director behind the glass, Paul, said to pick up the sides for General Hawk, and I go, oh, okay. And it was that voice, quick, follow me toward the danger. Yo, Joe, General, and I was a young kid, and I was just, I listen to it now, and I go, God, I could have done that a lot better. But they hired me. Somehow, someone said yes. And I ended up in my first cartoon as G.I. Joe, the Great American Hero.
Wow.
Now, I'm a Canadian kid at the time, okay? So I didn't think much of it. And then we emigrated to the U.S., and I was working on my citizenship and, had green cards and stuff. And I said, well, when I say I'm the Great American Hero and I played G.I. Joe, I said, that doesn't feel right. I said, I gotta, so we got our citizenship done, and we've been citizens now for four years, I guess it is, or
I think so, probably
somewhere on there. I got the good signature on my diploma. Anyway, we became citizens, and now I remember leaving the convention center in Los Angeles, going, hey, now I can say that I was G.I. Joe, the Great American stuff, because I always felt guilty that I couldn't, but that cartoon, that sort of started things off, and they were shooting X-Files in Vancouver. They were shooting a bunch of other shows, and I was fortunate to get a couple of roles on camera of that. I always gravitated, though, back toward the microphone. I loved being behind it. I did a bunch more cartoons and just started to grow the repertoire. I built a business providing voiceovers for radio and television stations around the world, and I sort of grew this other side business, and it became time. I was on an airplane for probably 10 years, almost, oh my God, the air miles I racked up from Vancouver to Los Angeles, and my agents were bugging me to be here, and finally, I said to my wife, we what do you think about LA? And she said, yeah, sure, let's give it a shot. Now, 98% of partners are going to say, screw you, I'm not going to LA. But she said she's down for it. So the kids were, they were, my daughter Tiana was a little heartbroken, being a 13-year-old, but their lives are here, and it's been a great decision, and I've worked with some amazing people, and continue to work with some amazing people, and it's always, every day is a dream come true. And so that's sort of where it started and ended up, and if we can get over this pandemic, however long this is going to take, man, I really, we have no roadmap, so, we don't know, but, it's been other than this, but we're all in this thing, right? So it's not just
Absolutely.
no matter where you live, everybody's affected by it. But I can't wait to get back out there and see my friends and work with my friends. We can do it on Zoom, and everybody's working on Zoom and doing that way. But being in the booth with a bunch of people, crazy people doing cartoons, is the best experience in my life. So, boy, I can't wait to get back doing that again.
Absolutely, and that's absolutely fantastic. That from just telling about this experience that you had with starting about in acting, and how your first voiceover role, as you just explained about, was like G.I. Joe, which was incredible. So that's absolutely fantastic right there. And with who would you consider to be your influences?
My influences, gosh. Well, I mean, I was always a Bugs Bunny fan. Mel Blanc, of course, for animation and those the old weird cartoons. But one of there's been a bunch of influences, in the different parts of the business that I work in, from television promo to trailers to whatever. One of the big influences was Don Lafontaine, the late great movie trailer announcer, who coined the phrase "in a world." And I met Don years ago, before he passed away. We became friends, and he sort of sat me down when I was down here, in the commuting thing from Vancouver, and I was missing my family, and I dropped off a book for him, and he said, "You got a minute? Come on in." He said, "Come and hang out." I go, "Oh, okay." So I went to Don's studio, and went downstairs, and he said, "What's going on?" I goes, "I don't know, man." He said, "What's the matter?" He said, "Well," I said, I think I gotta move here, man." I said, it's getting kind of. He said, "Well, you go home, you tell your family Daddy's got to do what Daddy's got to do, and you move down here. You should be doing this. You're good at it." So when one of the best in the business tells you that you're good at what you do, you kind of go, got to listen to that. Got to listen.
Absolutely.
So I did. Another influence was Tara Strong. Tara is a good friend of mine, and when I was doing Transformers animated, transform and roll out. Sorry, I had to throw that on. Bumblebee. And she said, "Why are you still in Vancouver?" And I said, "I don't have a wall on my face." She said, No, you got to look. Come and see my age." She introduced me to her agency, and somebody said, "Does Tara talk to you?" I go, "Yeah, all the time." "Oh, she likes you." I go, "What do you mean?" "Wow, she doesn't like you. She won't talk to you." So anyway, she sort of kind of spearheaded the whole get your ass to LA. What do you do? And I always thought about it, but with a family, you tie down a bit. But so those were important people and decisions. I mean, a name you would know, Jim Conrad, was doing radio and television, promos, and he was a big voice in Vancouver at the time when I was hearing him in the late 80s and early 90s, and I just said, I want to do what he does. Wow, that's cool. So I always wanted to. I wanted to do that. I have many mentors. But here's the thing, if people are listening and they want to know how to get into voiceover, there's no real roadmap, but I can tell you this, a lesson I learned a long time ago, and it's really hard because when you start out in this business, either on the radio or in cartoons or in voiceover, you have somebody you've heard and you want to sound like them, so you try to be somebody else other than yourself. And, people say to me, "Well, I can do funny voices." And I said, "Well, the most important voice is going to get you hired is you." And it took a long time to drop into to be comfortable with who I was. I could put on a voice, but it's got to have a heart and a soul. But early in my career, I realized I was trying to be other people and just be me. So it was a big, valuable lesson in that. It's just, you really got to be yourself, because that's what's going to get you the gig. And I'm one of the few people that had to come to a city like Los Angeles to find myself, which is really weird. So yeah, it's quite a journey, but there are many people along the way that will show up and sort of are signposts and who are important to you, and they don't necessarily have to be, people in who are in positions of power, or it's really those, I call them smart-ass Buddhas. It's a book my friend wrote. You know what I mean? Like, when I used to ski up at Whistler, we had all kinds of Aussies and Kiwis that they were lifties, and they would be at the lift in the morning, and you go skiing, and you're in, Whistler, British Columbia. Good night, mate. Yeah, it's good. And I go, oh, where are you from? He said, well, from Melbourne, mate. And Melbourne and New Zealand and Auckland, all over the place.
Absolutely.
And one of the guys would say something like, just could be would throw something about, have a nice day because, hey, the sun coming out, whatever he says. And you realize, shit, that's really profound. And it's those people that you never forget that you think that wouldn't have anything to say, that teach you the most valuable lessons in life. And I call them smart-ass Buddhas. They sort of appear out of nowhere. And it's important to listen to those people, because those folks can shape your life, and it's kind of cool.
Absolutely, that's just fantastic, right there, and that's definitely true about what you said about with you've had so many mentors over the years, so many biggest influences, but as you said before, a lot of the most lessons you pick up from and the most amazing advice that you get is from people that just randomly pop out and just give out this incredible advice. And as you said before about with discovering yourself as an actor, that you had to the most important voice that you have is yourself. I mean, it's kind of funny when you told me that story, because I remembered one. I did an interview a few years back with Richard Epcar where he and I spoke about the Joker, because he voiced the Joker in the Mortal Kombat series for quite some time. And he said that he has not even listened to Mark Hamill's version of the Joker, and he doesn't want to, because he would just inevitably copy Mark Hamill's version, because Mark Hamill, in terms of his vocal performance, has been the pinnacle of what people see as the definitive version of the Joker. So it's kind of in that same sense how, when you're basing off from as you said before, the one voice you have to focus on is really yourself. You can grab bits and pieces from a lot of people and such to meld your own kind of style right there, and I think that's fantastic. So
yeah, that's how Megatron came to be. I mean, because I had no idea about the G1, about the earlier Transform. I didn't know about Frank Welker's version. I had no idea who. When they brought me in '94 to read for the part, I said, well, I don't know. Geez, I don't know. What if I take if I take Sean Connery and Anthony Hopkins and a lizard, what would that sound like? And yes, you come up with this thing, this excellent. It was Shakespearean. And so I came up with that. It was part of me. Obviously, every character you do, there's a big part of you in there. But if I'd have heard Frank Welker's version, that would have. I'm glad I didn't hear it, because I didn't know anything about it. So yeah, Richard's right. But as soon as you say Mark Hamill, I've worked with Mark a number of times. What do you think of it? He's so good. I worked with him in Avengers. In the Avengers series, Marvel's Avengers series, and him and I got to play off each other with Stan Lee. That was a day.
Wow.
Yeah, that was something else. I remember it was Mark Hamill's birthday that day. We were all in recording, and Stan Lee had just been in, and Stan had gone, and we were all sort of still on cloud nine. and Stan's font, I was at this version, I was Vision, and then I was also playing Baron von Simo, and that was a lot of fun. I got to die a brilliant death. And Mark was another German voice. and uh, and the font on Stanley's uh, script was huge because he's older, and it's like giant font when you're reading off the script. And someone mentions, "Look at the size of Stan's font," and Mark says, "Hey, we should all be so lucky one day to have font that big." And everyone laughed and goes, "Yeah, isn't that great? He's Stan at the time was early '90s and still working. We should all be so lucky to have font that big." And they said it in the way Mark Hamill would say it. And it was just very cool.
That's fantastic. That's absolutely wonderful. And just being able to have that experience with like obviously with Mark Hamill, who is still blowing up to this day within not just in the voiceover world, but also within the Star Wars universe. And
Oh,
to
I
work,
remember. I remember what we were doing regular show. Do you guys get that down there?
yeah, we've had a couple
Regular
of
show.
yeah, we've heard of yeah, I've heard of regular show. Like they've
It's oh my god, it's fun. J.G. Quintel and we were. I used to come in on that show quite a bit. There's different roles, and I played one of the Reginald, the giant baby, talk like this, and and Mark was so fun to work with because he would be sitting down and he always say, "I don't get it. How these cartoons are like the 20 minutes long, and where's my intention? What am I gonna, you're gonna blow up the universe." And all of a sudden, Mark isn't there for a stretch of time. And Mark goes, "Well, where the hell's Mark? Where's Mark?" And he goes, "Oh, he's doing some movie or something." Stuff like you said. Next thing I know, oh shit, he's in Star Wars. Oh, so that's where he is. I remember that doing that show and him not being there. He's Mark Hamill. He's not there. Well, he's doing Star Wars. And that
That's
was kind of cool. I'm
fantastic.
like, oh, that's pretty awesome.
That is absolutely fantastic right there. Now, going across into like you've played a variety of roles from anime right down to cartoon series. Are all the roles you've done in the past like been audition based?
One more time with that.
Are all the roles that you've done in the past audition based?
Um, yeah, a lot. There are, on occasion, on the lucky occasion where I would get a call from my agent saying, "Hey, they want to bring you in for so and so." I go, "What? Did I audition for that?" She said, "No, they just want to, they hired you off of so and so, or somebody knew you, or they want you to." I go, "Oh, okay." That happens from time to time too, and that's all about relationships and people you work with, and being a doing your job and being a good person, and not being tough to get along with, because that goes a long way.
Fantastic. Absolutely. That's fantastic. And with any kind of big project or really series that you've worked on or project, do you walk into a series or a project expecting to play a certain role, or is it just like walking up to a Jack in the Box and not knowing what to expect?
No, well, you know who you've been cast in. You don't know who else. Sometimes with the big projects, you don't know who else you're working with. Um, I prefer to be surprised, um,
Fantastic.
and I like being surprised.
That's
Um,
fantastic.
Because really, I mean, my everyday to me is a surprise. My dad, and who worked at City Hall for all his life, came with me one day a long time ago when I was still living in Vancouver doing something. I had to go in and do a pickup for a voice, and I just had to go in and go, "Rah, rah," scream because they forgot to pick it up. And I signed the contract, and we went in the car, and he goes, Is that it?" I go, "Yeah, that's it, yeah." Um, he goes, "Well, what are you doing?" "Well, I got to go home. I got some stuff to do. I got to record." And he said, "Well," and he said, "Jesus Christ, 30 years at City Hall," and I mean, a different thing. But so I love Mondays. I don't know what I mean at the current time in our world history. I don't know what day it is and could care less. But for the most part, I look forward to Mondays because I think, okay, what's gonna wow, I have no idea, clean slate. There's certain things that are scheduled in for my agents, like different interviews, like that we had, or sessions, and that you're doing certain things. But for the most part, you really have no idea what's going to come through. And today, there's been about 3 or 4 really cool auditions from the WWE to a couple new animation series. So it's sort of like it's like new every day, and that's
Fantastic.
a really important thing to be very thankful for, because you get used to not knowing what's coming up and really enjoying that. That takes a while to get used to, and sometimes people can't wrap their head around that. But I love not knowing, what today. Today, it's a new slate. What do we got? I love that.
That's fantastic, and it's really interesting how you spoke about with just like going into like being surprised with walking into whatever project comes your way. And it's funny that you were mentioning about with talking about with Mark Hamill there, because there was a period, there was articles passing around a bit here and there about the live action Witcher TV series with Henry Cavill. In season 2, people have started reporting to Mark Hamill that he would be perfect for one of the roles in the Witcher TV series, and he
Sure.
responded back saying, "I have no idea who this character is or what this series is about, but I would be down for it." And and even the showrunner for that series said, "I would absolutely love to get Mark Hamill on the Witcher TV series."
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing. Like it's just, you said before, just jumping into surprises like that. It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
it is. And it's a wonderful way to go, through life. I think trying to put that into perspective currently, um, it's tough for all of us.
Mm,
It's sometimes it's hard to wrap my head around it, about what we're all going through. But there has to be, every day you have to wake up and go, well, you know, we're we're here, and let's see what the day brings. And I think it's great to have an element of surprise every day. Good things. There's always stuff to look forward to, but it's
absolutely.
it's tough. It's tough. I think that's where, watching shows and cartoons and movies, and it takes us out of our current reality and puts us in this other world, um, where there's always hope and dreams, and but we have to hang on to that. We have to be confident that at some point, whenever that will be, that we'll, slowly, eventually, climb out of this hole. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. It's hard, man, because just talking to you and doing interviews is kind of fun, and you forget about what's going on, and it takes you to a point where, hey, listen, I got to get going because I got a cartoon I got to go to, and you're out traveling around doing stuff, but it's forcing us to stop. It's forcing us. We've been so busy, and so the world's been spinning so fast. This is really forcing us to slow the f down and take a moment and really appreciate every single day. Um,
Absolutely. That
uh,
is fantastic.
if that makes any sense to you.
No, absolutely. That is just fantastic right there. That is absolutely brilliant. And I can tell you straight up, if this was an actual like talk show on television right now, and there was a live studio audience right next to me, they'd be applauding like crazy right about now.
Oh God, it's funny because my wife likes to watch Ellen in the afternoon. It's on in the kitchen, a little TV, and it's this screamy. People are screaming, screaming, and I used to come in and go, "Please turn it. I can't take it." Now I'm like aching for a live studio audience. I just want to hear the roar of a crowd, and yeah. Do you have that screaming daytime talk television down there too? Do you have that? It's like
Uh,
always screaming and yelling and
yeah, I think we've got that.
yeah.
Yeah, we've got a couple of those shows in the morning in Australia. I know we've got Sunrise Australia, we've got the Morning Show
Mm-hmm.
Australia, and we've also got the Today Show Australia as well. So we've got a lot of that stuff in the
I'm
mornings in
just not.
Australia.
I just normally I'm just not like it's just like my ears. I can't take it. I can't take the sound. The screaming. Why are you screaming and shouting? Maybe I'm just becoming old and before my eyes.
That, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. And with all the roles that you've done, like in the past and all that, with have you ever turned down any role for any particular reason?
Um. Well, anything religious or political, I'm like, nope, no, thank you. Um. Otherwise, no. No, I always, I have actually, and come to think of it, sometimes there is something will come through, and it's definitely, um, it's an Asian character, or the character could be black, or there could be something. I'm not touching that with it. I'm not doing that. They need to hire. I'm a big believer of hiring, um, people who are actually Asian or actually black for the role, and not stunt casting for any particular reason. I believe in honest casting like that. So if that anything comes across my computer, I'm like, no, passing. Sorry. Otherwise, I'm always up for a challenge, doing stuff. I'm getting cast as grandpas a lot now, which is interesting. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know. I'm not quite sure yet.
That's fantastic. Now, going across into like with anime series, now as many fans will know with regards to anime is that it's always based 90% of the time anime is based on like some form of a manga series that it has. Have you ever read the manga for any anime series that you've worked on, or ever become familiar or heard of a project that you've worked on before you started working on that series?
Back in the Vancouver days when I was doing the anime, I rarely, but when we did the conventions, um, I realized there's a whole world out there, and I remember somebody coming up and showing me the manga, the book, and of course it goes. Now, is it just? Am I remembering this wrong? The story starts at the back and goes forward.
Yes, that's right.
Right. So I saw that, and I realized there's a whole like catalog and library of books, and I there was one point there, I was totally. I mean, I love the art. I'm a big fan of like the art of it. I remember working on Ghost in the Shell, a version we did with Ocean Group. I played Batu, I think it was. Is that correct? You remember
I
that?
believe so, yeah.
Yeah, we did it with the Vancouver cast. It was one or two series, or I can't remember. It was really. I remember watching it and thinking, this looks so cool. This is really. And I saw at Long Beach Convention Center, the famous Japanese artist, the beautiful film. Oh my God, what was the name of the film? One of those beautiful anime films. I can't remember, but I just became a huge fan of the art, not necessarily the story. Because it's some of them are so long, and I'm off doing other things, having the time. But I could stare at some of the art. I could stare at it for hours, and that's how I sort of became a fan of anime through the art, through the animation.
Right.
First.
That's fantastic. And I think the anime artist that you were just trying to think of
Studio
there,
Ghibli.
Studio Ghibli, that's right. Hayao
Yeah.
Miyazaki, that's right.
Yes,
So,
yes,
that's
that's
right.
it. And I remember like not even knowing really what was going on. I just couldn't take my eyes off it. It was just wow, like blew me away. I
That's
was lost in it.
fantastic.
So yeah.
That is absolutely fantastic right there. Now, speaking about, of course, with anime, like, now you're best known to fans as Shishomaru from the Inuyasha series, which was my introduction to you as an actor, but also my other intro to your work was Proto Man from Mega Man NT Warrior.
Oh wow, yeah.
What was it like playing both those characters and in the world of Inuyasha and Mega Man?
Well, Sesshomaru was just basically here. I would lean back in a chair and shut up, Jock, and my brother. And it was a relaxing exercise to go in and work on Inuyasha. And for Proto Man, I mean, it's there's three beeps and you're doing the dub and you're in. Just more energy, heightened energy. I think it was up in this realm. So it was fun. I used to get caught watching the show and forgetting my cue.
Oh
I
wow.
really enjoyed watching. Really liked working on that series. Um, I got my friend Jeremy Clark, who's a comic book artist, did a comic book. Let's see, what do you call it? A cover for me. I commissioned him to do it, and he put Proto Man in there, and I went, hey! I really liked what he did. He put a bunch of my characters, and it looks like a cover of a comic book. I think it's online somewhere, but Proto Man is in there. And because I had forgotten all those shows we did in Vancouver, sometimes you forget what you did. But I really liked him. He was fun.
He was absolutely really fun. Like both those characters were absolutely fantastic, and Proto Man from Mega Man was you did such a fantastic job on that character, and your arc, particularly in the last series that you did, which was Mega Man Access, which was I think was the last series that I think they dubbed in English, because I know
Yeah,
there was two other series in there. Your story arc in that series was absolutely fantastic.
it was pretty fun.
It was
Pretty cool.
absolutely a lot of fun. Now,
Yeah.
speaking about, of course, with future stories with both those shows, because the last series that you worked on was in Inuyasha was the Final Act series, and also was doing Mega Man Access. Do you think there is more story to be told on both those shows? And if there was the chance for a spin-off series on either of those two shows, what would you want that to focus on?
Huh. I don't remember. I don't recall sort of where it ended up. Story wise, because I'll see it and I go, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh, I remember that. But I'm not sure where they all connected, and I can't remember how they ended. Um, I know the last series, the last season, I guess it was of Inuyasha.
Mm-hmm.
I had already, I had been in Los Angeles for a while, and they weren't about to fly me up to Vancouver. I would have done it. I think just to go and visit, but they needed people sort of to be available there, and I wasn't in town anymore. Um, but I would, look, I would have definitely do any of it, recreate and bring these things back again if the opportunity came up.
Absolutely.
It'd be fun.
That would be a lot
Yeah.
of fun. That would be fantastic right there. Now, speaking about, of course, with other anime shows, you also played across in the Mobile Suit Gundam series. What was it like stepping into that world?
Well, big speeches, a lot of words, a lot of big speeches. That was fun. I mean, I loved it. I was a fan of the toys, so when I realized that is this is the toy? Oh, cool. Um, they were, he never got really too excited. He dressed well. Um, it was always a fun to go and do those speeches. Um, and yeah, I know there's different iterations and versions of that. And I guess I died a noble death in that series, so I wasn't coming back. So,
Which actually leads me into the second part of that question, which was, will we hope to see you return to the Gundam universe if the opportunity arose?
hey, if the opportunity arose, yeah, I mean, that's a thing between producers, agents, and all that sort of stuff. If the opportunity comes up, and sure as heck gonna take a look at it. Absolutely.
Fantastic. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Now, speaking about, of course, with giant fighting robots, you also, we of course mentioned about this quite a fair few times today, was the Transformers series, having played Megatron in five of the Transformers series, but also playing Optimus Prime in Transformers Animated. What was it like stepping into the world of Transformers?
Oh wow, that was a whole. That was like the cartoon hadn't been drawn yet, so this was like GI Joe and other few series I'd done beforehand. Um, it was huge. I honestly didn't know what I was going to do when I had the opportunity to read for it. There was a ton of characters. It was a big deal. I remember they're all talking about it, and we couldn't talk about it. Of course, it's very secretive, and I just remember thinking when I got all the characters, oh my God, this would be so fun to do this. Wow. And I went and read for the main characters right off the bat. I didn't bother with the secondary characters, they're all main characters, but I wanted to either be Optimus or Megatron. I'd made up my mind, and I just didn't know what voice I was going to do. I mean, even on the callback, I'm going, I have no idea. And it wasn't until I got behind the mic that things kind of, started to come into place. And I took my time, made it Shakespearean. If I do this, this will happen. It was very written very Shakespearean.
That's fantastic.
At the time, I was doing theater, and I just loved the words. The writing was fantastic. Larry DiTillo and Bob Forward. I just wanted to be part of it, and wow, and I was floored when I got the role of Megatron, because that was just that's been outstanding. I have the little button here too.
Find gun.
It's like a little button I press every day in here.
Find gun.
I can't believe I have a catchphrase. Oh boy, many movies been written about.
That's fantastic. That's absolutely wonderful. Now, when people think about, obviously, Transformers, they not just think about the animated series, but they also think of the live-action movies that were directed by Michael Bay, but also the Bumblebee movie that was done with Hailee Steinfeld and John Cena a couple of years ago. Did you ever watch any of the live-action movies?
Only the first one.
Right.
I took my son. I haven't seen one all the way through yet, I don't think. But I don't watch a lot of movies. I got to be honest with you. I don't think I've seen much of anything that I've ever done. I know I've seen a bunch of Ben 10s recently because they're so short. They're over by the time I can change the channel. I'm one of those ones that, I hear myself and I go, I could have done that better. I could have done it. So I don't. I'll be perfectly honest. I would have loved to, been able to work on one of those shows. I just never, I do want to see Bumblebee though. My buddy David Soboleff is a character in there, and I hear it says good. I just never really. It's not for lack of wanting to. There was other things I wanted to see, but I did take my son to the first one.
Fantastic.
It was really loud. I remember they had it. There was only a few of us in the matinee or the early show in L.A. and Hollywood. There was like 8 people in the theater. It was like a 10 o'clock in the morning showing, and it was just they cranked it. It was like lights. My God, I had a headache when I left. And it's cool. It was cool. I see Peter Cullen now and again. He lives I don't see him at the moment, but I would run into him in the neighborhood here, and I like Peter a lot. He's just such a great guy, and I'm so thrilled that he rightfully is in those films,
That's fantastic. Cool. That's fantastic. And did he ever tell you about his experience working on the live action movies?
Peter?
Yeah.
A little bit. I mean, before this all happened, we were supposed to sit down and do one of those wine shows that I do with Peter, or have scotch with another friend, a mutual friend, and because he's an old radio guy, he's from Canada too. Like I didn't realize that, and so we seen each other and we worked together a couple times, and I always wanted to sort of sit down and grab a dinner, and that was the plan, up until they told us we couldn't go anywhere. But yeah, not too much, no.
Right. That's fantastic. Now, of course, not just with Transformers, but a lot of anime series, and especially cartoon series, as you mentioned about before, like Ben 10, have been adapted for the live-action universe. And what has been your opinion about them adapting such big material like that for the world of live action?
Okay, I'm sorry, one more time?
Sorry. Excuse me. Not just with Transformers, but also a lot of anime series and cartoon series, such as you mentioned before, Ben 10, have been adapted into live action movies. What has been your opinion about them adapting series that big for the live action universe?
Okay, well, you're never going to please everybody, that's for sure. I don't know. It's tough to do. It's tough to adapt, a live action. Because there's so much. You got to think of this, like for the Ratchet and Clank movie we did. There's so much material. I mean, there's so many characters and material and deep universes. How are they going to get that all in an hour and 10 minutes or an hour and 20-minute movie? So that's the thing that it's hard to do. You have these movies, Marvel, DC, all this stuff, and there's like years of comic books and stories. How in the world are you going to get all that into this one movie? It's tough. It's a tough job. I don't envy them, but I always enjoy all the movies I watch because I'm always one of those. Yeah, they tried. I can't. I'm not one of those people that go, oh God, I hate it. I can never. And I take it for what it is, and I know a lot of work goes into them, and so I watch them and move on. I don't spend time obsessing over anything like I didn't like this and like that. Well, it doesn't affect me. So I'll either watch the next one or I won't.
I think that's a really good approach to have on that, because it's definitely true, because you have a lot of like really hardcore fans that are into these sort of things that are going to nitpick out on the little details or especially pick out on the bigger details that make those characters like what they are. It's like watching, it's like, for example, when you go to see like a Batman movie, for example, and he just steps into a world that's like all sunshine and rainbows, and he has a My Little Pony tattoo on his chest instead of the bat symbol. It's like, what?
Yeah.
So it.
Yeah. But don't forget the fans of these shows too. That's why I think Peter Cullen became Optimus Prime, and the fans have a lot of say, and it's important.
Absolutely.
I think that the input is extremely important. I'm just one of those people that's like, yeah, I don't, okay, that was good, and I don't like. It's over. It's gone. But these universes and stories are important to people because you grow up on them and you expect a certain amount of, it's tough. Making a movie for a fan base is you're not going to please everyone. It's just, that's the way it is.
Absolutely.
But
that's
without the fans, there's no us. There's no anything.
Absolutely.
So there you go.
There you go. That's absolutely fantastic. Now, speaking about, of course, with Ben 10, you played a variety of characters from Ben 10 Omniverse right into the new Ben 10 series as Grandpa Max, taking after Paul Eating. What was it like stepping into that world? And were you nervous taking up on Grandpa Max after Paul Eating's version of the character?
Sure, because you're all excited about being cast in a role, and you go, oh, wait a minute. Well, I was in the series Omniverse and worked with Paul as I was a bunch of different aliens in Omniverse, and then a new team comes in, and then they have a round of casting, and I was brought in, and they wanted me to read for Grandpa Max. I'm like, is that legal? Because I know Paul's the nicest human being on the planet, and I'm like, well, okay, I'll read for it, but and I was cast, and I was all excited, but then I thought, oh shit, right, it's. So I remember seeing Paul out there as we do. I said, hey, listen, I kind of fumbled my way through an apology, and he was great. He said, look, all of us are replaced. All of us. It's the nature of the business. A new team comes in, and a new cast comes in, and Tara's still Ben. It's just the way it is. We all get replaced, and that's just the nature of the business.
Absolutely.
So, but it didn't make me feel any better. All I could do is just do the best Grandpa Max I could do, and because Paul's. I was already grown up, but I watched Ben 10 when Paul was in it all the time. So, but yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, sometimes it's tough. You just have to do the best you can with it.
Absolutely, and that's fantastic to hear that Paul was like so on board about that sort of thing. And you never.
Well, I know if he was on board about it. He'd be disappointed. Well, I didn't, but I felt bad because I really liked Paul. He's just a great human being, and I just kind of felt, oh shit. okay, well, I gotta just do the best I can with this,
Mm.
and not think about it.
What I can tell you about, of course, is that if they were able to get, of course, Tara Strong back as Ben 10, and even get Yuri Lowenthal back into the series playing Vilgax, it would be it stands to reason they could do the same thing for a lot of the other actors from the previous Ben 10 series and bring them into the new ones. So it's totally possible that could happen. So it's totally
You
possible.
never, I mean, gosh, you never know.
Exactly.
You never know. They don't tell us anything. It's, again, the element of surprise.
Absolutely. And speaking about, of course, more in the Ben 10 series, with the new series, what stories do you personally want to explore in the new series?
Well, I don't know what their plans are or what's going on, but I'd love to find out more about Grandpa Max. Like, where did he's hiding? There's so many things he's hiding. So that's one of my big ones. Is when are they gonna, when are we gonna find out who this guy really is? I love that one. Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, we've also talked about this quite a fair few times today, but you've also played across the comic book universe, both Marvel and DC, from X-Men Evolution as Professor X and Apocalypse to Avengers Assemble and Young Justice. What was it like stepping into the comic book universe?
The, the you mean the DC? You mean the DC universe? You
Bo-
mean
both both Marvel and DC.
Oh, well, that. Well, look, I grew up on those. Sorry, one second. I do have a. I have something I need to record here actually in a few minutes. I just checked the time, but I will. I that. I mean, I grew up on the comics. I grew up on Marvel. I grew up on. I did collect also a lot of DC comics. When you're part of that, it's a joy to go to work every day. When you're doing a series for Marvel or DC, the DC Vandal Savage role, we lost a great actor when
Miguel
uh,
Freya?
when Vandal Savage oh crap, I'm having a mental block.
I think it's Miguel Freya. I think
Miguel,
it is.
sorry, I'm having a mental block. I have something that I have to do here in about 10 minutes. Um, when he passed on, that was a huge loss and a major voice and a fantastic actor and someone I always wish I could have worked with and and so that they wanted they read me for that role. I went, oh, how the hell I gosh, it just so happened I sort of had the right timbre and and they brought me in for it and it was daunting because he's a legendary, Hollywood royalty, a legendary voice, and this huge star, and you're like, well, how the hell am I going to pull this off? So again, I had to just. I was in this area here, and I was able to sort of draw a call on that, and all I could do was just do the best I could do to honor this man. And I was very nervous at the wrap party when they showed the episodes, and I was very relieved when they all come up to me after and some social media stuff and the comments. I thought, oh, thank goodness, because that was scary and yeah, it's tough, but I just had to do the damnedest, the best possible job I could to honor him and keep that character alive because he's one of my favorite characters when I was reading comics. So it was pretty
Fantastic.
cool.
And that's absolutely fantastic right there. And like your performance from X-Men Evolution as Professor X and Apocalypse was absolutely fantastic and was kind of really my introduction to the full X-Men universe before seeing the live action movies. So it was just absolutely fantastic. And
Oh, great.
that's absolutely wonderful. And speaking about, of course, with X-Men, now because Marvel Studios have gotten the rights back to the X-Men and Fantastic Four, are there any particular comic book characters or stories, either Marvel or DC, that you want to see adapted for live action?
I know they have deep storylines and deep pockets. So it's whatever they want to do. I would just like to be involved, in a few of the projects down the road for animation or something. It's it's part of my childhood too. So when you have a chance to do that and be involved in something like that, it's, anything.
Absolutely, that's fantastic.
Anything is great.
That's fantastic. Now, you're also best known in the video game universe as Clank from the Ratchet and Clank series, but also Nathan Hale from the Resistance series. What was it like playing in both those franchises, and with the success of the recent Sonic the Hedgehog movie, having broken the curse of the video game film, do you want to see a live-action Resistance or another live-action Ratchet and Clank movie or TV series?
Well, I'd love to. This is actually my last question. I got a gig I got to do here.
Sure.
But of course, I want to see the Nefarious. I want to see what happens to Nefarious and do another film. Or I'd love to see a cartoon series. I know they've been talking about that for years, and fingers are always crossed. And it's just this again. There's so many. It's so deep in the storylines and the technology, and I'm interested to see what's next for our friends Ratchet and Clank, and I really can't wait. And I always love working with James Arnold Taylor, and so fingers crossed on that. And what was the other part? The other you said that? Oh yes,
Resistance.
the Resistance. Yeah, that would be fun. Actually, that would be really cool. A live action movie. I would pay to see that.
Fantastic.
I think that could be really creepy and really, I don't know. I would love the idea of that being a live action film for sure.
Absolutely, that would be fantastic. And last couple of questions here. Where do you hope to see yourself with regards to acting in the long run, and what's next for David Kaye for the fans to know about?
Well, there's a bunch of things I can't tell you at all. No, I'm working on some stuff now that I just can't say anything. And what was the second part of that question?
Sorry. Where do you hope to see yourself with regards to acting in the long run?
Oh boy. Yeah, more features. A chance to play some roles that aren't grandpas or robots. No, man. I'm thankful and grateful for everything, and I just all I just want is us to get through this, however long it takes, is to get back to some sort of form of normalcy. Because again, it's sort of hard for me to think past today a lot of times.
Well,
just so we all remain healthy and happy. And I know that they're writing a ton of stories right now. They're all adapting. Everyone's adapting. There's a lot of projects and a lot of stories being written and stuff. And I'll also, I'm, producing a weird animated short. We're looking for it's actually it's not like a short. It's a series, and we're working with some good friends in Tassie.
Oh, wow.
The animators are from Tassie, so that should be a cool combination. It's very irreverent and crazy, and we're looking to see if we can get that going as well. And the cast is phenomenal.
That's
so,
fantastic.
I can't tell you that, yeah.
Well, looking forward to whatever projects come our way from you. David Kaye,
Yes, thank you.
David Kaye, thank you so much indeed. It's been an absolute honor.
You're very welcome, sir. Thank you. Great questions. And yes, be well and stay safe. And I can't wait when we can get down to visit. I have relatives in Melbourne, so I got to come
Fantastic.
visit.
That's absolutely wonderful. And is there anything you would like to say to the fans out there in Australia and in the world?
Well, I know that we were, we did an episode of Hollywood and Wine. It's on YouTube. We dedicated to Australia when you guys are going through some tough times with those fires, and we raised a bit of money. We still have a bottle, signed bottle, of Walking Dead wine to give to somebody who donated to the first responders, the firefighters down there. We still haven't done that yet because it's just been what's been going on now. So big shout out to our friends in the wine industry and the firefighters, and just to everybody we're all, I get, it's used a lot, but all in this together, and it really is true. No matter where you're called in the world, Valencia, Spain, Italy, parts of Europe, South America, we're all going through this thing. So just stay home, be well, stay safe, and let's beat this and get back to some kind of situation where we can visit each other again.
Absolutely. That's fantastic right there. And to all the listeners out there, if you'd like to find out more about David Kaye, you can check out all the links which I'll put down below in the description once this interview goes up on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe to HannaTalk, like and follow me on both Facebook and Twitter. And if you have any suggestions or requests, just comment below. Thank you all so much for listening. This is Simon and David Kaye signing off. See ya!